This conference will now be recorded.
So we'll be starting the session today, and this will be our last session. And so, if you have any doubt or anything, you can ask after the class or now also. So today's so let me share my screen first. Okay, so today's agenda is to learn Protector, which is end-to-end testing of for Angular. So previous to today's session, we have learned how to do unit testing, and we uh, almost spent 2 sessions on that to learn how to do unit testing. And unit testing is far more important than protector testing because unit testing makes sure your component is working fine as expected, or any changes you're doing to the component in future, so you are not breaking your existing component functionality unknowingly. So that's the benefit of unit testing, which gives more of a coverage, more control towards nitty-gritty of testing. So unit testing is far important, I'll say, but productor test is also good and important. But here we most of the time we test end-to-end testing for your application. What does my end-to-end testing? So in unit testing, what we do, we test a particular unit and like a component or a service or a directive or a filter. So we test that for unit testing, but protector testing or end-to-end testing is more of a entire functionality. So you will be testing like if I'm clicking on that button, I'm going to the next page, and the next page, all my details should load. So it's kind of a one scenario testing. So let's say you are searching something and you got a result of that. So that's like one scenario end to end. So in that end to end, there could be a lot of components, a lot of directives, filters might be involved, but that's what I mean by end to end or a functional testing. So a lot of different ways we can do this end to end testing, and the popular tool for that is Selenium. So a lot of team use Selenium to do end to end testing. But here, what we're trying to learn is Protector. So what is a Protector? So Protector is nothing but it's like end-to-end test framework which the Angular team has built, and it runs the test on a browser. And the best part is Protector is built on top of Selenium only. So behind the scene, the engine is Selenium itself. So and Protector is just a higher layer on top of Selenium. So that we can write our testing TypeScript or JavaScript. But in those Selenium, I think there are different drivers are available. So, so Protector is more for Angular only. So Protector is only for testing Angular, but Selenium is even a broader. So with Selenium, you can test any kind of application like the Java application or .NET application, any application. So, okay, so that's about Protector. So it's a end-to-end test framework for Angular applications, Angular 1 or Angular, new Angular, Angular 6. Everything can be tested with Protector. and Protector runs the test on a browser, and we saw in our unit testing also we run our test on browser. So setup. So setup is pretty easy. So we just have to say npm install -g protector, so that protector will get installed to our machine globally. So this behind the scene two things. One, it install the protector, and next is WaveDriver Manager, which is again a required WaveDriver to run your protector test. So we can say WebDriver Manager slash update if WebDriver is already there. So WebDriver Manager, it's a tool which get an instant of a Selenium server running. So I mentioned, right, so Protector is nothing but behind the scene. It uses Selenium to run your test, and you guys know that Selenium is a much more powerful uh, tool to run end-to-end to automate the testing. So here we do WebDriver Manager update, and to start the server we do WebDriver Manager start. So these are the things. So you need two things. One is Protector, and other is WebDriver. Cool. But the best part with, so if you want to see Selenium, so Selenium guys say they are software testing. So Selenium automates browsers. That's what they say. So they mainly, the developer uses Selenium to automating their web application for testing purposes. That's what the Selenium is. And Protector is also for same thing, but Protector is only for Angular application. That's the difference. Protector is only for Angular application, but Selenium is for anything. You can automate any application with Selenium. Okay, so so just we need to install npm install -g protector to install Protector, and then the WebDriver update we have to do so that it will update itself, because WebDriver Manager get installed along with when you say npm install -g protector, the WebDriver Manager also get installed. But once it gets installed, we have to update it to its right version. So we just have to say WebDriver Manager update, so it will update if latest is not there. That's all done. So once we do that, then so we can come back to our Angular application. So this is our Angular application which we have built it before in our previous sessions. So if you are not remembering this application, so what I can do, I can run ng start ng start, so that you will get to know which application I'm talking about. So I can go back to browser, make a localhost of this. So I'm talking about this application now. So this application we have used to learn our unit testing also. So this is an application which is having it's a dashboard where a few heroes has been mentioned. If you remember, this is the application we have used before also, and I can click on any of the heroes and I get a detail. I can go back. I can search any of the heroes. Either it came up. Celeritas. So Now when I can click heroes, then I'll get to see all the heroes over here. Cool. So this is what the application is when we want to do end-to-end testing for that. So what does end-to-end testing means over here? So when I come to the screen and I search for Narco, then I searched Narco, I got Narco, I clicked on the Narco, then this page got loaded with Narco details. So that's what your end-to-end testing adds. So you will search something, your search will detect it, you will click on that. Once you click on that, you open the new page, and on that new page, you display the details of Narco. That's where your end-to-end test starts and ends. But unit testing is not like that, right? If you remember in our previous session, so unit testing talks about more about a simple component, because in this process, what we saw, there might be two or three different components might have been involved, right? So your dashboard could be a component, your detail page could be a component, maybe two, three directives or filters might have involved. When you're searching and getting it, that might be a filter. So we are using that filter also, and there could be some directives. So all are getting used. But when we write unit tests, we just concentrate on one component, one directive, one service at a time. But end-to-end testing is not about that. It's about how a user uses its application. It's similar where how we write unit tests. So those are the scenarios we target. Okay, so with this, what we can do, we can run some unit test. Sorry, run some protected tests. So first thing you have to go, you can go to the package.json file. So you remember to run our unit test, we used to run a command called ng test, right? So similarly, to run your protected test, we can say ng e2e. E2e means end to end. Okay, so we can run ng e2e command, and everything behind the scene, your WebDriver start and protector run, everything will happen behind the scene. We don't have to worry about that, because that comes with the Angular project scaffolding application. When you generate an Angular application, you get this structure. So we got a folder created E2E. You can see on the top, it's there at the left, and that E2E contains your end-to-end distance test cases, and the command we just will say ng2. Okay, okay. So I have already protector setup is done, and if you guys have to do it, then you have to do that protector. You have to install first, then you have update your WebDriver, and then only we can do this ng2. So first step is install protector, update WebDriver. Okay, so now once I open this E2E folder, there are a couple of files are there inside. So the first configuration. So similar way, if you remember, we have run unit tests, and there was a configuration file for our unit test called karma.conf.js. Similar way, here the configuration file is protector conf.js. So this file will have few of the configuration. What is a base URL which is of our application. So for our application, the base URL is localhost 4200. For any application for google.com, its base URL is google.com, like that. So our base URL is localhost 4200, and after that all the routes will come into picture. So what all things we're using browser as a Chrome. So those are information we have to give. So Chrome option we have to provide, and direct connect to framework Jasmine. Okay, so here also we use Jasmine to write test. Remember, unit test also we use Jasmine as a framework to write unit tests, right? So, and then few Jasmine node options, then what all things we need. So, a lot about configuration. So, we don't have to worry much of these configuration until unless you want to change your browser name. Let's say you want to run your E2E test on different browser. So then you just have to come over here and change the browser name so that your end-to-end test will run on that browser. And if your base URL has changed, then you can come and over here change the base URL. So these are the two things which we most of the time, and rest all things are actually same. We don't do much changes to that. Okay, now come to the test, how we write a test. So if we go to this file, the first file, spec.ts. So all the tests, what we write, and we end with e2e.spec.ts. If you remember, our unit tests were ending with just spec.ts, right? The component name, you can see the name of this file, the component name dot spec.ts, and here it ends with dot e2e dot spec and dash spec.ts. So this is just to differentiate between two unit testing file and your e2e spec file. You can name it anything, whatever you feel by which you can differentiate it. So this is mainly a differentiator, so there is nothing called it has to be named with e2e dash spec.ts. So you can name it anything, but for differentiating between a unit test spec and an E2E spec, this is how the file names are. So that our configuration file can pick those files. So in your unit test configuration file, you'll write pick all the files with end with dot spec.ts to run them. Similarly, in the E2E spec.ts, we'll say pick all the files which ends with e2espec.ts. Right? You can see we have specified that similar thing here. You see the line number 8 to 10. In factor.conf.js file, we are telling protector, okay, our specs are ends with e2e-spec.ts. Similarly, in karma.conf.js for unit testing, you'll say our test files are ending with spec.ts. So if you open, see here, karma.conf.js, similar thing. And if you go to that, so we're not saying anything in the karma.conf tutorial. So in the karma.conf, we just load one file that's called test.ts, and those thing has been mentioned in test.ts. You see the test.ts line number 18, where we are saying pick the file which ends with .spec.ts. Okay, so let's come back to our protected test. So what could be a simple protected test? We'll see that first. So so we can see how a small protected test could be. I have just highlighted similar way how we have used in unit testing the describe and the eat, uh, everything, right? So describe, you remember, it will describe will be your set of tests for similar functionalities. It will be your one individual test. Similarly, you will have before each, after each, which can run before the test and after the test. And describe, and it will have its own description and a function. So two parameters to these functions. So it will have first parameter as should have a title. I mean, anything it could be, whatever you're trying to test, and then the function. And inside that function, you'll have the entire test defined. So in this stage, what we are trying to test is, so I'm first saying browser.get. So that means get this URL. This is a URL under test, right? Browser.get. And then just say expect browser.getTitle. So now this browser instance will have a lot of methods and properties. So one of those methods is get title. So get title means if you see every application you launch on a browser, it will have a title. So if you see what I have opened here, there is a title called Angular. The title is Protector End-to-End Testing. Selenium's title is Selenium Web Browser Automation. Tour of Heroes also have it. So every application you see a title, right? That's what you see on a tab on the top of your application. So similarly, so we want to test whether that title is correct or not. So in our case, what I have to say, browser.get to equal tour of heroes, and that will be your one test. So anytime you're changing your title of your application, that's going to fail. And where we specify this title in our code, so if we go to index.html, this is what a title, line number 5, tour of heroes. So we want to test this. So if you want to test this, it's pretty simple. So I think similar test we also might have. So if you see the first test in our application, we are testing the same. We are saying expect browser.getTitle to equal to expected title. And what this expected title is, if you search, you might have defined it. That is nothing but expected h1, and expected h1 is nothing but 2 of it. So we are testing the same. Our title has to be a tour of heroes, and that's what we are testing. Okay, so why we didn't do that browser.get? So the browser.get is a common code, so we move that to before each. So kind of a before all here. You can use before all also similar, so it will run just once. So like before each, it runs before each test. There is a similar method called before all, which just runs once before all the test cases. That's the difference between before each and before all. So we have used before each before. Before means in our previous session. So each describe can have before each or before all. Describe is nothing but set of tests. So describe is a method under which your similar kind of test or not also similar test to uh, so all the test which is trying to test one functionality will be there under one describe. And describe is nothing but it's a method which takes two parameters. One is the name of the describe, and second is a function. You can see that function is there. And inside that, before order it will be the right, and each it is one test. And we can have nested describe also. So inside a describe, we can have few more describes. And before all is a method which helps to run some common code. So any code which you want to run on each test, we can move that to before all. Okay, so in the before all we're getting an instance browser.get and blank. Because why I have mentioned over blank, because in our configuration file we already specified base URL, right? So our base URL is localhost 4200, and here we are just passing one route. So our default, so if I just pass blank string, it will go to a default route and I'll get that instance. Once I get that instance, that's all. Then I can get the instance of that application, and then I can call .get title is actually the expected title or not. Expected title I define as 2 of 0. So that's how we write test. So now even you can go to the application label. So let's say in our application, if you open the application and app component.html, you see the first line of code, which is the h1, and h1 is nothing but a title. And if you see the app component.ts file, what the title is 2 of 0 again. And if you come back and see our application, also you see the header of the application is 2 of 0, which I have highlighted. So let's test this. The header of the application has to be 2 of 0, and how you write a protected test for that. Similar thing. You just have to say expect heading. So expect heading. If I search for this, so this is, we have written some generic method, but ideally your your expect is this, which is there at line number 290. You can see. So you can expect X text, and X text is nothing but element. So all these functions are now available to you to get hold of. So element is a function which helps to get hold of or get instance of any element in your page, and you can query that by your CSS or all those. So if you see this line, what I'm giving, I'm getting the instance of that h1 by how? By I'm saying element, which is a method, and what I'm passing to that, I'm saying search for a CSS, saying by.css and with hashtag h1. So I'm saying you find an element whose CSS style is h1 and get the text of that. So this is how we can get an instance of any of the element, and then we can test the value of that element. So if we come back to our protected test, see, this is how I'll show how to get hold of. So this is a simple application to, so let's say in this application there will be two text box, one and you can enter the two text box, and you can click a button and you get an output of the sum of those two numbers what you have put on that text box. Trace that, you can see how simple it is if we focus on this test. Okay, first you have to browser.get. What it does, it just opens that application in browser, because all our unit test, all our end-to-end test finally runs on a browser. So you open a browser and you open your application. So that is happened because of this line. So it will open a browser and it will open this URL, whatever you're seeing over here. Okay, so let's, if we open also this URL, You see, there are some super calculator it has been mentioned. So I'll say 1, I'll say plus, I'll say 2, I'll say go, and I got output 3, right? So this is an application. So let's say we are writing an end-to-end testing to test this application, right? So what should happen? So this URL should open, and automatically 1 should get entered here, automatically 2 should get entered here, automatically this go button should get clicked, and then I verify whether the output came as 3 or not, right? Similar thing. So how to do that? So first you open that application. Next, similarly, browser, we have method called element, and this element method helps to get the instance of those elements. So now I want to get the instance of the first input box. So I'll say by dot model first. Okay, so obviously when you write test, you should have access to the HTMLs. So if I right click and inspect, you can see the ng model is first, right? So I'm getting an instance of that ng model only, and that's what it has been written by model first. So it's saying go for and look for an application, look the entire application, and wherever the model name is first, you return me that. That's what this line is mean. Find an element by model first. Okay, so whose model name is first, it will get return. So now I'll get hold of that first input box because that will match, and then there is a method called send keys, so by which you can enter anything. So when I say send keys, I can enter and I can pass in values. So I'm saying you key in 1. Similarly, you find an instance for an element whose model name is second and pass it to. So after entering 1 and 2, I have to click it. So to click it, I again say find an element whose ID is go button. So if you see here, ID is go button. So here's ID is has been some specific. So I find an element whose ID is go button. So ID is the best one because most of the times your ID will be unique. Uh, so we can find by that. And once you get an instant, I'm saying click. So click is a method instead of I'm clicking manually, programmatically will click that button. And once we click that button, now to see the output, right? Output is again I'm saying find an element whose binding is latest. So these are like more of an Angular thing, right? So I can test a model whose model name is first. I can say whose binding is latest. So these are more of Angular thing because if you see here, this S2 where we are using that binding. So I'm testing whose binding is latest and get the text of that and then say it should be equal 5. So ideally it has to be 5, but I'm just testing it. So this test will fail because I have to expect 3 because 3 will come, right? That's what we saw in supercalculator. When you say 1 plus 2, it has to be 3, but we are testing it has to be 5 and then it will get fail. Obviously it has to be 3 and it will get pass. And if you see, this is what the code is. That's why I'm getting those. When you're trying to find element, you can find by model, you can find by binding, because this what is this binding. So in that particular we might have used something like this, the double curly brace and the latest. So that's basically your model or a binding variable name. With those name also we can do a query. So I was just showing here how we can get instance of those elements. So this is how we generally write test. So funda is simple. you have to get instance of an element which you want to access by anyhow. You can get the instance of the application by maybe your CSS class name, or maybe your ID name, your binding name, your model name, anything which is unique. You have to query based on that uniqueness to find the instance of that element, and then you can play around that instance. So you can either click it, you can, if it's an input box, you can pass on value. If it's a button, you can highlight it. Anything we can do based on what is possible in that application. Okay, so now we are writing some for our this hero application, right? A tour of heroes. So now if we go back to our code base, and we have already written few tests, and similar to that, there is a generic method also we have written, where it's saying expect heading. So, but behind the scene we are doing the same. So we are trying to find the instance of that h1, and once I get the instance, I can read the value, and then I'm reading it whether the h1's value has been mentioned to of heroes or not. That's what uh, the second test I'm doing. Initial page, right? So this is the one. So this has been written some generic method. So in that method, I'm passing what I want to set I1, so it will be h1, and what will be the value of that expected h1, which might have mentioned in the top, which is mentioned at the top as field of the value of expected h1. Okay, so this is how we write test, and if you want to run it, the test, we just have to say ng e2, so that's the command which you have to run your unit test. Now you can see your tests are running, and here you can see your tests are running. Automatically you can see everything getting clicked, getting entered. Now if I go back to this, and this is the result of your test. You can see over here all got passed. There are almost 22 specs are there. All 22 get passed. Right? So that's what it's pretty easy. I mean, not very easy, but it's not so difficult also. And this, if you see this browser and element, whatever you use, those are part of Protector only. And so if you have to write a new spec file, then it's simple. You just can create a new file saying my dot e dot spec dot ps. Okay. So once you create that, so first you have to write a describe, right? And this will say my test, and then there will be a function under test. Cool. And then it will have a it. Okay, so then here you'll say test the title, or you say title has to be Tour of Heroes, right? That's what our title is. Upload application. Then the function. Then you say browser.get, but this browser is not defined, so you have to import this. So you have to say import browser from protector. Okay, so now your browser will get detect, and then you have to say this. So why I'm saying blank string? Because in our application, if we go to the app routing module.ts, anytime we get a blank path, it will redirect to dashboard. That's why I have given a blank path, which is like a default path, default route. Okay, come back to our page. Once we get that, means my application will get launched. And then what I have to say, browser dot get title. You can see a lot of methods are available. I'm interested on get title. So I can say let title equal to browser dot get title, and then I say expect, which is my matchup. Title to be tour of use. This is how we write this. Now what I'll do, I'll go and comment out this describe, so that all test will get skipped and only my test is going to run. Okay, cool. Save it, clear, run it. So to skip, we just say X before the describe or X before the IT, so that test will get skipped. Okay, so my test will get run. It's saying all tests got skipped. Okay, I'll copy this and I'll put at the end of here. Now I'll write it again. Okay, it got failed at least. Cool. Something has happened. So it's saying expected tour of heroes to be tour of heroes. Okay, so that is, so this is how now you can see we find a bug in our either the application or in our test. So we are expecting wrong thing. So this, there is a spelling mistake is there. It has to be heroes, has to be one more e after hero. Now we can save it. That's what it says. Expected tour of heroes to be tour of heroes. So we can get to know by comparing it. This is helpful. So anytime you change your title, this test is going to fail, and you will get to know something is wrong. Now our test got passes. You can see my test. This is not pass. Okay. So similar way, you can write more test. I can say header name has to be tour of heroes, right? And for that, I need to get instance of the header. So again, the first line of the test has to be browser.get. And now I want to get the header of that. So I'll say let header equal to element the method which helps to get to that. Then I'll say by dot. Okay, now how we want to find it. So we have to go to lookindex.html. So if you see okay, no, they're not the index.html app component.html. If you see, I have an h1 tag, so which I need to find out. So I'll say by. So if you click on by, you can see a lot of methods are coming over here. Add locator binding, class name, CSS, ID, model name, option, tag name. So let's see if I found with the tag name, and I'll say tag name is h1, right? Then I'll say expect header, which I got it. I search from a tag name. Either you can say 2b or we can say 2 equal, different matches. Then again I can do, it has to be same. Done. So our test is also done. You can save it again. You can clear it. So you can see how we use element method to get the instance of the element and oh, sorry. Then I have to get the value also. What's the method name to get value? Okay, get text. Test would have failed. I got it before. Yeah, now if I run the test, now you can see the two tests got pass. So now instead of repeating this browser gate multiple times, I can write. So I just need to open the application once, right? So I can use before all. So if I do before Raj, it will like doing it every time before test. I don't want to do that. I just want to do it once. So I can just move this browser gate in before all and I can remove it from second test. So now what will happen? It will just open the application once and then it will run all the tests. So previously what it was doing, it was opening the application every time before each test, which is not required. So that's how we moved this browser gate to previously, and now my test should work as it is. It should not create any issues. Okay, now you can see same. Two tests not pass. Okay, so similarly you can do lot more. If you come to this application, even you can see click Narco, click Bombasto, click Celebritas, or you can even get the instance of this input box and or enter something. Or there are two links are there to go to different page, right? We can click heroes, we can go to a new page, we click on dashboard, we can come to the dashboard screen. So all this you can do with your protector testing. So we can get instance of this dashboard. So you have to see the code obviously to get to know that. That's how we approach. So how we approach, first we see the code, how we can automate this. Mainly we focus about our HTML. So if you see in the HTML, I get instance of this H1, right? Similarly, I can see here nav. So I can get hold of same tag nav, or I can get hold of this anchor tag, or I can get hold of router link, and I can say wherever the router link is dashboard, we try to get that and click on this. So all these things we can do it, or we can provide ID to this. So sometime while you're doing E2E testing, you feel there is a need to provide an ID. So I can provide an ID over here saying ID is dashboard, and now I can say ID is router dashboard. And now what I can do, I can look for this ID in my application and I can click on this, and then I expect something. So after clicking, what is happening like that? So I have to be on that page itself, so I can validate whether I'm still on that screen or not. How do we verify if we're still on that screen or not? Obviously, okay. So I should, this top hero should be displayed on somewhere in my application, so I can mention that it's still on that screen. And when I click on heroes, the screen got changed. My hero should get displayed. So that's how you can differentiate between your top heroes and my heroes. Then you can get to know, okay, this click has happened and your navigation has happened. So similarly, I can provide an ID over here saying router slash heroes. So you can give these IDs to get uh, going, or if you want to, or Angular has a lot more ways. Sorry, the Protector has a lot more way to get hold of your elements. So if you see the test, see this one. So the third test which already been written, this is saying expect the views. So I'm trying to get whether I'm getting those two views or not. Dashboard is those, that also I can test it. So this is what is happening. So I'm getting the page elements, and you can see how to get those pages. That's in app root nav and a. So this is also you can get to know, get the instance of that particular. So this is like multi-label of finding, right? I'm saying element.all. So we look for any element, uh, all the elements, and then find it with this order. So it has to be app root, then navigation, and the. And you see we have like that, right? So so that, okay. So here if you see app root is just refer to that, because index.html is your app root. So you can see here body inside app root is there, and inside uproot nav and a. Then you will get an instance of this anyway. Or if you can provide an ID and you can simply say element by ID and you get hold of that instance, like how we have done, right? Element by tag name and we got it, or you can do the other way also to get hold of that. So if you don't have ID, that's what. So here, let's say we didn't have ID right before. ID is easier to find, but if you don't have an ID or if you don't have a luxury to change the code, then we can say, okay, the routes should be shown and the function. Oops. Similarly, I can say routes equal to element dot all. So the element dot all, what will do, it will find all the elements, and the element will just find the first element by, you can see CSS, and you can pass on app dash root, then you'll have nav, then you'll have. So this is like a combination. So find an element which is having these three CSS attributes. That's what it's trying to say. Once you get that, then you can say expect. So we should get two elements, right? I say expect routes dot length to be. Okay, save it and then run it. We'll see what's happening. I expect routes to be an array because it will get two elements. Okay, one test got failed. Expected undefined to be true. So somehow we got this output as an undefined. I'm not sure why, but yeah, this is what happened. So we got this as an undefined. Maybe I have to say get text. Or I'll see how it has been done. I'll see that. Get page elements. Close to that. Nav elements. So it got the element, then you have to say get 0 and get 1. Okay, so nav elements. App root nav. Right? This is fine. Nav correct. So it has to be an array. Then why it says undefined to be true. This is why I've done the same. Okay, so not sure, but this is how we get to get all the properties. Or I can directly say, by tag name. I can say now. I can tag name is now will be favorite running. Sometimes this finding will be tricky once you get hold of that, or we can refer the documentation also. So here also I failed it again. So it's saying expected undefined to be true. So somehow this routes dot length is getting undefined. The length is not coming. So I see what the route is coming. Big. So this is getting this entire object element finder, this, that. Hmm. Something we are hmm, run element just by tagging them. This is how you can experiment. So I can see the documentation to exactly know how to get hold of all elements. But yeah, I'm just trying it out here. You can trial. So here I should get at least the dashboard. Oh, this you can say get value. This can say get CSS value also. So by this I'll get the text which I don't want. Okay, so leave it for now. We can see the existing test which we have already written, how it has been done. Similar way, so we can find get page elements. So we can do similar way, element dot all by CSS and this. I'm not sure why it's not working for me, but yeah, this is how it should work. So once we get all the elements, then you can see nav element dot get 0 will have first element and get 1 will have second element, and then we can again, okay, that will get a reference, and from that reference again I can query that. So I just want to get hold of this nav elements, and I want to test the length of this has to be true. So ideally, I'll get to know who nav element is there. So that also one way of testing, or even you can go to the deeper label and you can say what the value of those dashboards, those nav elements are there. Similar way, if you want to test more, we can keep on testing like this. So here, if you see, we want to know what is the top heroes count. That was 4, right? It's the same thing here we're testing. We are get hold of similar things. get hold of your the hero detail, same by element by CSS, and then sending the same CSS style, and yeah, and we're checking this is having four heroes or not. What we're testing actually this guy. Yes. Yeah, so this is four top heroes we are showing over there. So I'm just testing we are showing four heroes or not to get to know that I'm just getting an instance of this entire thing. And what we once we get the instance of this entire thing, then we can test it. So if I just right click and inspect, you can see app root, then nav, and inside that we're trying to find a nav, right? So you can say app root, app dashboard, dot h3 should have a value top use. That way you can find out the things. So uh, app root, inside app root, app dashboard, inside app dashboard, h3 has to be top heroes. Let's see if this guy is working. Cool. Okay, so this is what you see how we get the instance of h3. So this actually, I'll say the page title of dashboard screen should be top heroes, right? That's what I told. So this is how you can get the instance of tag also. So what I did is, so what I did, I say the page name of the subject for the dashboard page, which is this guy, has to be top heroes, right? This is a type. This is a title of this dashboard page, top heroes. So I want to test this, and this is got tested. So I get this. So I just saw the HTML and I try to find out that saying app root, inside app root, look for app dashboard, inside app close, look for h3 and get me the value, and the value has to be top. So the protector test is all about getting the instance of that particular element. Once you know how to get the instance, the easiest way to get the instance is by ID, but sometimes the challenge will be you might not have the ID, then you might have to take different approaches to get the instance of that element. Once you get the instance of that element, that's all. Then you can just test your application. So So product testings are all about getting the instance of the in element and then just play around that element, find the values, the click on the. Okay, so we have not checked. So if you want to click on something, right? So we can say dot click. So this dot click So you get the instance and you say dot click. So similarly like this, you can see like in my which I have highlighted. So here you can say get the instance like element by button text add. So get the element whose button text is add and then click it. That's how it is. Or if you want to enter some value to the input box, then you substitute say you find that element, then say send keys and enter and the value whatever you want to enter. So these send keys and click helps to automatically input something in a input box or automatically enter something in input box or click about that. So these two also quite used. And you don't have to worry, you just get an element reference and you'll get all the methods in there. So if I just click a dot and you can see it's showing what all methods it's having. See, a lot of methods. Submit, take screenshot, send, keys locator, is selected, is enabled, is displayed. So by using this all, we can actually see what all methods are available on that particular uh, element instance. So this is how we write end-to-end test and verify the things. You can do even lot complex end-to-end test, but again, the the fundamental of all end-to-end testing processes is get the access of that element. Once you get the access to that element reference, then you test. Okay, so with this, if I just comment our old scribe, I'll save it and I'll show how it runs once again. You just click on anything in it, you can see automatically it will open the browser, open that URL, and you can see how the test will be running. You can see the oops. Now you can see how the test is running automatically. It's loading, entering, searching, clicking. That. And then we can verify all our results. So this is what all about end-to-end testing, and that's all what I have to say for the day. And I think we have covered almost everything with the Angular. So this was the only pending thing which was left, and we did it. And with this, we are done with our Angular learning. So if you guys have any questions, you can feel free to ask now, or you can ask later as well. Anything, guys? Charles, Swan, or all good? I hope you guys might have got all your details, all recordings, all PPTs, all code, everything. If anything is you feel not, you can shout out for that. You can ask Vamshi. I have shared everything with him. He will share with you guys for sure. Charles, Swan, anything you have?
No, thanks.
Okay, cool. So thank you guys for joining today's session, joining all other previous sessions, and thank you. And yeah, good luck for your Angular development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.